I've got two of the latest and fastest downhill bikes, the Specialized Demo Race and the Trek Session 9 X01, and I've been riding them back to back to find out which I think is best. I'm going to dig into all the aspects of the bikes, including frame features, what these models come spec'd with, and of course, suspension and ride feel. Before I do that, a big thanks to our sponsors Bluegrass and MET for kidding me out with some protection for this shoe. If you like the look of the helmet, click in the link below. To kick things off, I've got 5 points you need to know about the bikes. Number 1, wheel size. Both bikes can use a full 29-inch wheel setup or a mixed wheel setup. The Trek can even run full 650B wheels front and rear, albeit with a different lower headset cup. Number 2, travel. Both bikes deliver 200mm of rear wheel travel. Number 3, frame material. While carbon fiber seems to be the industry's preferred choice for high-end bikes, both of these are built with aluminium. Number 4, weight. The Trek weighs in at 17.1 kilograms in size R2 with no pedals, and the Specialized at 16.82 kilograms in a size S3, again no pedals. You will need to add a few hundred grams though to run downhill tires on the Demo, as it comes spec'd with KL Tracing tires and they're a little bit lighter. And finally, number 5, price. The Specialized Demo Race is £7,500 and the Trek Session 9 X01 £6,300. Now we've got those important details out the way, let's talk a little bit more about downhill bikes in 2021. Downhill bikes were once king of the hill. They ruled the roost for anything that wasn't cross-country riding. But of course, that is no longer the case. And with the rise of the trail bike over the last 15 years and the huge improvements in the pedalability of long travel single crown bikes, they've been knocked off their perch as top dog. Still, World Cup downhill racing remains a pinnacle of the sport. Tens of thousands of fans are thrilled by its stars, and many dream of following in their footsteps of fame and glory. Modern enduro bikes might be more capable than the downhill bikes of old, but the continued development in downhill has seen them become even more focused. For pure, no-holds-barred, adrenaline-fueled, flat-out action, nothing can hold a candle to the mighty downhill bike. Both these bikes have distinguished history between the tape. Riders such as Sam Hill, Aaron Gwynn, Rachel Atherton and Troy Brosnan earning their medals, podiums and championships throughout the years. Currently, the Trek is piloted by its factory racing team, including reigning world champion Scotland's Reece Wilson and French wonderkid Loris Vergier. Specialized's latest Demo has been a force to be reckoned with since 2019 under French superstar Loic Bruni. So, let's start looking at the frames. Both bikes deliver 200mm of rear wheel travel, and both are built from aluminium and can fit either a 29 or a 650B rear wheel. The Trek Session comes as stock with 29-inch wheels front and back, while the Specialized Demo comes as a mixed wheel bike off the shop floor. The minnow links, or otherwise known as flip chips, found on the Trek means you can set the geometry to a high or low position for the 29er. Using a 650B rear wheel, you need to use the high setting, which puts the geo just about equal to the low 29er position. The Specialized has a high and low setting for both wheel sizes. You change the flip chip located in the rear pivot near the back axle. Both bikes also feature internal cable routing, although there are options to run the rear brake externally for easy maintenance with both bikes. The Specialized uses a trunnion shock mount, so it utilizes bearings for reduced friction. The Session has squeezed in a 250mm eye-to-eye shock, which uses bearing eyelets to help keep friction down also. Apart from the suspension design, another big difference is the rear hub widths. The Demo uses a more common but unusual size for downhill bikes, a 148mm by 12 boost spacing. This means spares will undoubtedly be easier to come by. Still, the rear wheel isn't potentially as strong as the 157 by 12 downhill hub spacing as used on the Trek, due to the uneven dishing of the wheel. There is plenty of frame protection on both bikes to help minimise damage from rock strikes, and around the stays to help reduce chain slap noise and paint chips. The Trek even comes with an additional down tube protector for hooking the bike over the tailgate of a pickup. We do see a couple of issues, however. The cable routing on the Trek, which needs some frame protection around the rocker to prevent rubbing. Also, the large opening in the linkage underneath the demo is primed for filling with mud and grit, so keeping an eye on this area is very sensible. Neither bike uses integrated fork bumpers to protect the frame from the fork stanchions and relies on bumpers on the forks themselves to prevent impacts in a crash or the like damaging the frame. As stated before, both bikes dish out 200mm of rear wheel travel. The Trek uses a single pivot design with the shock compressed by a rocker driven by the seat stays. Trek raised the main pivot to make it a high single pivot, but is certainly not the highest out there. Due to the Trek's main pivot placement, the Session develops more rearward axle path, but is not continuously backwards. Instead, it migrates back until about half travel before curving forwards until full travel. Trek has employed a chain idler to help reduce the high anti-squat and pedal kickback associated with the high single pivots. This design allows Trek to maintain the benefits of the rearward axle path. This is where the direction is better aligned to the bump force, so it can absorb bumps more efficiently without producing huge amounts of pedal kickback generated from the increase in distance between the bottom bracket and rear axle as the suspension compresses through its travel. The Trek Session also features a flip chip in the lower shock placement that alters the progression from 20% to 25%. The Specialized uses a 4-bar suspension platform with 2 connecting links that drive the shock. The axle path isn't as rearward as the Trek Session, but with more a vertical beginning axle path, moving slightly forwards deeper in the travel. Specialized haven't felt the need to use an idler to negate dramatic train growth, so it uses a traditional drive chain setup, and the overall progression is around 35%. The Trek is available in 3 sizes, R1, R2 and R3. The sizes are based on the reach, where the seat tube length and frame stack are equal across all sizes. Reach values in the Session's 29 and low position increase from 440mm on size R1 to 465mm on size R2 and 493mm on size R3. In the high position, they range from 447mm to 472mm and to 499mm for the R1, R2 and R3 respectively. Chainstay lengths also grow with each frame size to help keep the weight distribution between the wheels balanced as the reach values increase. So, for example, the rear center lengths jump from 439mm to 445mm and to 452mm across sizes R1 to R3 in the low setting, and they're all 4mm shorter in the high setting. I set the Trek up with my preferred handlebar height, and in the low position I measured a 63.2 degree head tube angle, 355mm bottom bracket height on 1372mm wheelbase on the size R2. These are close to the geometry charts, but not exact. The Specialized is available in 3 sizes and shares the same principle where it's built around reach numbers. The stack remains equal across all sizes, and the seat tube lengths are 26mm taller on the S3 and S4. For sizes S2, S3 and S4, the reach values increase from 426 to 446 to 466mm respectively. This is in the bike's stock settings, 650B rear wheel and forward flip chip position. This might limit taller riders for choice. There are 2 settings for both 29-inch and 650B wheels with the demo, so 4 geometry charts. I kept the demo in its stock setting. That provided a snappy 438mm chainstay. Setting the bike up with an equal handlebar height to the Trek, the Specialized had a 62.1 degree head tube angle, 345mm bottom bracket height, and 1,262mm wheelbase. Even in its high setting, the Specialized was a touch over 1 degree slacker at the head tube and 10mm lower at the bottom bracket compared to the Trek in its low setting. These are Trek's and Specialized's highest spec bikes. They feature a lot of the same components, including the 200mm travel RockShox Boxer Ultimate forks. Trek has spec'd their bikes with the shorter 46mm offset fork, while Specialized has gone for the 56mm offset. They also both use a RockShox Super Deluxe DH shock, with the coil version on the demo and the air shock on the session. Both use SRAM's X01 DH 7-speed drivetrain and code RSC brakes. Rotor sizes are different, with Specialized choosing a massive 220mm front rotor and 200mm rear, and the Trek a 200mm front motor and a somewhat smaller 180mm rear. Wheel-wise, Trek uses their in-house brand Bontrager and their DH Line 30 wheels and G5 DH tyres. These come tubeless ready, but aren't set up tubeless. Specialized use their in-house brand Roval for their alloy DH rims and use DT Swiss competition spokes and DT Swiss 350 rear hub and a Specialized front hub. Specialized also spec their Butcher Black Diamond tyres. Unfortunately, these aren't up to the job for downhill use unless you're a very light and delicate rider. I put holes in both the front and the rear tyre during testing, which is why you see the demo running non-standard tyres. Trek finish off their build with a Bontrager saddle, seat post and cockpit, featuring their carbon Line Pro handlebars with an 820mm width and the Line Pro direct mount stem with a 50mm length. Specialized finish off the demo's build with a Specialized saddle, Thompson seat post, Truvatif direct mount stem in a 50mm length, Roval carbon handlebars which are 800mm wide and a Deity lockjaw grip. Talking about the Specialized, you can only get the most out of the demo once you swap out its poor tyres. I suffered 3 punctures in my first 4 runs. With those compromises out the way, the Specialized is a brilliant bike to ride. It has incredible composure on the trail and a refined rear suspension that offers good sensitivity and smooth progression. You can feel the back end dealing with all the small trail chatter, and there's plenty of support when you need it for the bigger hits. The demo transfers some feedback to the rider, but not in a way that tires you out. It just lets you know it's working hard to keep you charging forwards. It also has a liveliness about its ride. Even with the coil shock, there's pop to the bike that lets you play around on the trail. While the bike's intentions are clearly to ride as fast as possible, it can still find fun on the trail. The demo has the lowest bottom bracket of the 2 bikes here, and in turns, you can feel the bike hunker down and provide tons of grip. Through high-low turns, this grip lets you attack them with confidence. While the Session isn't an utterly magic carpet ride down the hill, it's a bike that lets you get on with the job, not needing much help from the rider. Due to a combination of the suspension design, idler and air shock, it isolates you very well from the trail. As a result, it mutes a lot of trail chatter from reaching you. Compared to the Specialized, the ride isn't as engaging. However, I felt I can ride this bike more on autopilot, and it leaves you with fewer things to think about when charging down the hill. I predict some will love this trait and others will find it less to their liking. Because of this, it loses some of the playfulness that the Specialized delivers, but it's equally as fast. Hitting the turns, the Session is planted. However, with the larger back wheel and longer chainstays, it's not as fast to engage sharp turns. The grip is still impressive though, and you can hit any corner with commitment. Choosing between the 2 is challenging, as both bikes allowed me to ride to my full potential. Times against the stopwatch showed no significant difference between their capabilities, at least at my riding level. Their ride characteristics are quite different though. The Trek seems to be less versatile, but on the other hand, it dampens bumps incredibly well and lets you concentrate on riding your best. The Specialized is incredibly composed still, but has a livelier demeanour, perhaps making it more versatile as a fun park bike and a race bike. If I was spending my cash, I would take the Trek. It suits my riding style better where my wheels rarely leave the ground. Still, the Specialized capability and versatility I can see being a big win for many people. But that £1,200 price difference is an excellent holiday to the Alps to use your new pride and joy.